cheating in the circle group. Bruce and his wife Linda were having drinks on the terrace of their large house in the suburbs. Bruce, a 42-year-old accountant, had achieved great success in his profession and had been promoted to vice president of the firm. Their expensive home reflected his financial success. Linda, a 36-year-old attractive brunette, looked younger than her years. Through a disciplined exercise regimen and diet, her figure was like that of a woman 10 years younger. Her most notable features were her large bust and long, slender legs. Linda had been an elementary school teacher, but as Bruce's income increased, she stopped working. Bruce and Linda's love affair was very pleasant for him, but less so for Linda. The situation improved somewhat for her when the couple took the plunge into the world of suburban swinging last year. In Linda's opinion, though, the guys were nothing special. The parties, however, were getting rarer and rarer, and that was what this evening was about. "I don't get it," Bruce said. "First Sarah and Bill left, then Marie and Jim. Now we see each other less and less." "Yeah," Linda said. "It's frustrating, but I think I know why." "You do?" Bruce asked, surprised. "I think I do." "And what is it?" "Well," began Linda with obvious hesitation, "I was talking to Marie the other day over a cup of coffee. Apparently the action hasn't stopped, but some of our friends have gone in a different direction." "What does that mean, a different direction?" "Well," Linda continued, "I don't know how to put it, but basically some of the ladies have started to find these evenings less exciting." "You're joking," Bruce said. "No. I know you guys are enjoying it a lot, but Sarah was looking for excitement and started to find something new." "What is it?" "Well, it's some form of party where couples and singles mix and you get a wider age range." "So," Linda continued, Sarah told Marie, "and that's where they go. They say it's the most exciting thing they've ever experienced." "Who are the loners that go there?" Bruce asked. "Oh, young people, usually trim and attractive. I guess that's what makes these parties more attractive." When Bruce returned with 2 fresh drinks, she took a sip, crossed her legs, and sighed softly. "What's the matter?" Bruce asked. "Oh, nothing. Probably just too much to drink and too much time has passed since one of our parties. That's what I'm curious about." "Do you want to go?" Linda glowed with excitement. It was even easier than she had imagined. A few days later, Linda and Bruce were entertaining their friends Marie and Jim. The affair was late on a Saturday night, after a candlelight dinner at which there was no mention of swinging. Now relaxing in the balmy summer night air and bolstered by wine, thoughts turned to love. Bruce, for his part, was once again admiring the beautiful Marie, a 29-year-old blonde paralegal at a prestigious city law firm. It was Linda who turned the conversation to the circle group. "Say, Marie," she began, "what do you think of the circle?" "Oh, it's great. We like it very much, don't we, darling?" she said, turning to her husband, Jim. "Yes, dear," he replied with somewhat less enthusiasm. "Are you thinking of coming to the circle party?" she asked Bruce and Linda. "Well, I don't know," said Bruce. "You should. It's a totally different experience." "Why is it called the circle?" Linda's eyes widened slightly in warning to Marie, who continued, "Well, the couple who host these parties have a huge house outside the city. Outside on the terrace there is a large circle, about 5 yards in diameter, drawn in yellow chalk. When the couple arrives at the party, they are given a collar with a lock and a plastic bracelet with a key to that lock. While one of the couple is spending time with someone, the other puts on the collar, it locks, and that's the signal to go out on the patio. Sit in a circle and stay there until their partner comes to get them. The system is good, guarantees privacy, and avoids awkwardness." Linda relaxed, pleased with Marie's description. The evening ended with Jim, strangely enough, having no comment about these parties. 30 minutes later, when Marie and Jim left, Linda and Bruce returned to the patio for a nightcap. "Why don't we try a party like this?" Linda asked. "I suppose," Bruce began, "the circle idea sounds strange, doesn't it? And a lot of people will be unfamiliar to us." Linda interjected, "I think it might be interesting to go to one of the parties to see what kind of people are there. We don't have to do anything. We can just drink and decide it's not for us." "Maybe—" The next day, Linda called Marie. Her friend asked curiously, "So are you guys coming to the circle party?" "I hope so. I just have to let Bruce get used to the idea." "Look, just ask him to take you to one of the parties. Put you in the cuckold circle and let you get your first real use from a stud. Your Bruce will be dying of curiosity and will want to hear everything. He'll be so curious that he'll soon be ready to entertain a real man in your home, and will be so shocked by what he sees that he will eat out of your hands, among other places." The women howled with laughter. "You know what I really like?" Marie asked. "What?" "Thinking about the guys from our old group who pleasured me and seeing them get into the cuckold circle for all to see. And once Bruce is there, you'll be in charge of all your relationships." "I'll talk to Bruce tonight." "Okay." Chuckles. "The next party is this Saturday. Hopefully, by Sunday morning, your Bruce will be a cuckold forever. So, what do you say? Maybe we should stop by and see what all the fuss is about. We can always leave and go to the movies if we get bored." "Yeah, why not? If Jim and Bill went, it must be okay." Bruce had mixed feelings. Linda always enjoyed making love to him. He had his doubts about swinging, but he agreed, and it proved exciting for both of them. Friday night, Bruce and Linda went to the first circle band party. Linda was thrilled, but Bruce had his doubts. "I'm not sure about this," he said. "Don't worry, honey. I'm sure it'll be fine." "Anyway," Bruce continued, "just remember that we don't have to do anything at all. This could just be a chance to check things out without, getting involved. Like that's going to happen," Linda thought to herself. Half an hour later, they pulled up to a house that almost looked like a mansion. The landscaping was expensive, including large torches lighting up the front yard. "How do I look?" Linda asked. "Terrific," Bruce replied sincerely. In fact, he thought, this evening Linda had actually made an effort getting ready. Her sexiest low-cut dress and highest heels, a visit to the hairdresser, and a new perfume. At the mere sight of her, Bruce began to feel a tingling sensation. His reverie was interrupted when the door opened. In front of them stood a beautiful woman in her 40s, brunette, tall, and dressed to the hilt. "Hello," she said. "You must be Linda and Bruce. Please come in. I'm Rachel." The lighting in the foyer was dimmed but enhanced by a few candles. Quiet music and conversation came from another room. "Linda," Rachel said, "you are as beautiful as Marie said you were. I think you will be a most welcome addition to our little group." Bruce noticed that the hostess was addressing his wife, but not him. "And here," Rachel continued, "is your circle necklace and the key to the lock." Linda dropped the necklace and chain into her purse and slipped the plastic bracelet with the key onto her wrist. "Come with me. I'll show you the bar. Marie is already here and is looking forward to seeing you." "Great," Linda said as she and Bruce followed the hostess into a large, dark-paneled room. It was actually a large library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a fireplace. At one end of the room was a bar. Bruce noticed that the bartender, a man in his 40s, was wearing the same collar as the one Linda had been issued. Rachel noticed Bruce's curious look. "He wears the collar because he takes turns serving everyone who is sent to the circle and does a few other things during the party." "I see," Bruce said. In front of the bartender stood a man in his 20s and an attractive blonde in her 40s. "Your champagne, ma'am," the bartender said, placing a flute of sparkling liquor in front of them. "And here's your scotch, sir." Bruce thought the bartender was unusually polite. Bruce and Linda ordered white wine, which was poured and served with admirable efficiency. "Here you go, ma'am," said the bartender, placing the drink on a napkin in front of Linda. "And here's yours, buddy." "Buddy?" Bruce thought. "What's he talking about?" "He's very polite," Bruce said to Rachel as they walked towards the open door of the library bar. "Of course. It's just part of the tradition of manners and politeness we encourage at our meetings." They walked through the lounge area, which also had dim lighting. There was a couple sitting on a couch in the corner, whispering to each other. From this area, they entered a very large room that could be called a party room or perhaps a huge family room. There were 5 designated seating areas, a small bar in the corner, a dance floor, lots of couches, all interspersed with potted trees. Candles and quiet music added to the effect. On one side of the room were French doors leading outside to a patio and a lighted pool. There were about 20 people in the room, mostly gathered in small groups. "Linda!" It was Marie. "Marie, hi," Linda said as they hugged. "I'm so glad you came. You too, Bruce," she added with a smile. "Where's Jim?" Bruce asked, hoping to catch a glimpse of someone familiar. "Well," Marie replied, "actually, he's on the terrace, in the circle." "You mean," Linda began. "That's right. Wait, I'll introduce you. Don't move." When Marie stepped back, Bruce put his arm around Linda's shoulders. She shook him off as Marie returned with a handsome young man in his early 20s. "Wow," Linda whispered to Bruce. "Linda," Marie said, "this is Mitchell. Mitchell is my best friend, Linda." "Well, well, well," the man said approvingly, looking Linda over slowly and openly. All of Marie's friends. "And this," she said, "is Bruce." Bruce shook the man's hand, who tried to squeeze his hand hard enough to let him know who was stronger, and he clearly succeeded. "Linda," Marie continued in her usual panting and enthusiastic manner, "come with me. There's someone I want you to meet." As Linda followed Marie and her friend, Bruce followed behind them. Marie paused to talk him out of it. "Bruce, be a good girl and wait here, okay? I promise you'll see her again." Marie led Linda to a corner of the room where a small group of people were standing and chatting. Instead of joining the group, she patted a tall black man on the shoulder to get his attention. When he turned around, Linda saw a very handsome man in his 30s with an athletic build. He let his gaze sweep over Linda in a very leisurely manner that made her blush. "James," Marie said, "this is my friend Linda, the one I told you about." Linda to James. James took Linda's hand in his and squeezed it warmly. "Gee, Marie," he said, "you didn't give this lady her due." "Nice to meet you, James," Linda said, suddenly feeling very warm and hoping her face didn't turn red. "Would you take Linda under your arm for a while? I need to get my hubby out of the circle for a few minutes." "Sure," James said, winking at Linda. "She'll be in good hands." When Marie left, Black Adonis led Linda to the love seat at the other end of the room and sat down next to her. Linda felt the warmth of his legs pressed against her and took a sip of champagne. "Where's your hubby, Linda?" he asked. "There he is, sitting by the door, watching us," Linda replied. "I can see Bruce can't take his eyes off us. Why don't we give him something to think about?" "What do you mean?" Linda asked. James placed his right hand on the back of the couch behind Linda and put his hand on her shoulder. His touch made her jump slightly, but she did nothing to push her roommate away. Instead, she crossed her legs and turned slightly toward him. "I think we'll get along just fine," he said with a smile, stroking her shoulder gently. Linda sipped more champagne. Bruce was not happy. It seemed like everything was happening very fast. He decided that if Linda was going to get to know a stranger so quickly, he should try harder too, and went back to the bar. Bruce looked around the room, but something wasn't quite right. James looked at Linda. "I've heard that your husband may not fully understand the rules of this house, right?" "Yes, it can be a shock," Linda replied with a chuckle. "Well, I think you'll fit in very well here, Linda, and I think you'll be very glad you came." "You think so?" she asked somewhat flirtatiously, getting into the mood of the conversation. "Oh, yes, especially when we get your hubby on board. We should put a collar on him outside before he gets his affairs and things sorted out. I hope I'm not wrong in saying that you will be the happiest lady ever before this night is over. I want to make sure you come again." "We'll see." He slowly brought his face closer to Linda's face. She knew he was going to kiss her. It seemed like an eternity before he touched her, and all sorts of thoughts ran through her mind. How would Bruce react? How would she react? Would it happen? Would she want it to happen? Would she want it to happen? She answered the last question in the affirmative. Then his lips made contact with hers. Even though there were many people in the room, it made no difference to her. His gentle kiss only helped her make her decision. When she felt his tongue probe her lips, she immediately opened herself up to him and felt him enter her mouth and intertwine with her own tongue. She moaned softly as she began to fully participate in the kiss. pressing her mouth against his mouth, opening wider and washing his tongue with hers. There was no turning back. When their kiss ended, Linda was almost out of breath from the sensations running through her body. If he does everything as well as he kisses, she thought, then I'm definitely in trouble. I think it's time I introduced you to what this club is all about, don't you? What do you mean? I mean, I think you should put that collar around your hubby's neck and send him to sit in the circle. Linda got up and found Bruce at the bar. Hi, honey, she said. Having fun? Having fun? Well, I guess I am, he said with a note of bitterness in his voice. Don't be like that. We agreed to give it a try. I hope you don't mind if I... She pulled the collar out of her pocket and reached up to put it around his neck. Honey, do you have to do that? Shh, now turn around so I can lock it on. He did as she asked and heard the small lock close. Not too tight, I hope? Perhaps it was the strange sensation of the collar that brought Bruce's mind out of its slumber. Everything began to seem very wrong. Looking around more carefully, he noticed that there were definitely more men than women, and there didn't seem to be as many single women among the young, trim guys. Then he noticed that there were only men sitting outside in a circle, and wives with young guys heading for the stairs. Damn it, he muttered. They're taking me for a fool and we're leaving. Linda replied, What? We just got here, and I want to spend some time with James. You knew what this was all about from the beginning, didn't you? A fucking cuckold club. How long have you and Marie been planning to trick me into coming here? Just shut your eyes. You just need to get used to the idea. I'm not going to get used to it. You'll get used to it, Jim and Bill did. We've both been in love with other people, it's no different. Very different. It involves humiliation and disrespect, and you've already lied and spun behind my back. I bet you and your new boyfriend were giggling at poor, naive Bruce offering his wife to other men. I have no idea what Jim and Bill are thinking, but I'm not them. You know I'm not going for it, or you would have told me sooner. Parties are geared toward married women. It's very nice of Jim and Bill to be so supportive of Marie and Sarah. That's real commitment and confidence. I think the parties are more geared towards guys using married women for their own pleasure. That's nonsense. If you really love me, you'd let me do it, and we could continue our happy, supportive relationship. Linda smiled triumphantly as her husband's eyes traveled downward. After a seemingly eternal pause, he looked into her eyes. That's the problem. I love you, and I thought you loved me. I'm leaving. As Bruce moved towards the door, James walked up to him. Where are you going? You can't leave until I say you can. Bruce didn't answer. You have to stay and see a real man make love to your wife. Trust me, once you see it, you'll realize you can't compete. We'll break the rules and let you watch for the first time. Bruce looked at Linda, expecting a change of heart, an objection, anything. But it didn't happen. He didn't like that this James guy took for granted that he could overrule his wife like that. He was annoyed with himself. But most of all, he couldn't believe that Linda was going along with it and seemed to be enjoying it. He turned to James. Are you going to try to stop me? It might not be as easy as you think. When James hesitated, he simply walked out, assuming Linda would follow him. Linda's thoughts were racing. She knew she had to leave with Bruce, run after him, and try to make a relationship work. Some of the things he said made her feel uncomfortable, but she was furious that Bruce had embarrassed her in front of everyone. Why couldn't he be more like Jim, even though she didn't think much of Jim? Sarah and Marie were suddenly next to her, chattering away wordlessly, confirming how unreasonable Bruce was. What she was asking for was perfectly reasonable. It wasn't hurting anyone. Linda wasn't so sure, but stayed. Listened to the barrage of advice and didn't follow it. James approached her. Don't worry. Sometimes we have that initial reaction. He'll come to his senses. Just leave him for a few hours to calm down. You can still get what you came here for, and you can deal with Bruce tomorrow. Let's go upstairs. She hesitated, but then accepted his offered hand. A few minutes later, Linda was standing in the center of the room, and her future lover James was sitting in a soft chair looking at the sexy wife that was about to be his. He always liked the first time best, and the fight with her husband made it all the sweeter. He wondered if she would be scared when she saw his huge manhood. Would she scream or cry? Either way, he was sure she would become a convert and was looking forward to the moment. Linda, meanwhile, tried not to think about her husband, feeling giddy at having to undress in front of a stranger. She reached behind her back and pulled down the zipper on her dress. She desperately wanted to impress. Even though the fight had ruined the feeling of anticipation and excitement, she was sure she still wanted to. Shrugging, she pulled the top of the dress down to waist level, exposing the lavender bra that barely contained her breasts. "Oh, baby, you make me very happy," James said. "I just know you and I are going to get along great." It occurred to her that it was the dress Bruce had helped her pick out. "Let's see the rest of it." With those words, she let the dress fall to her feet. She tossed it aside and stood with her legs spread and her hands on her hips. James saw the matching garter belt, panties, and black stockings. Linda reached behind her, this time to undo her bra. She let it fall to the floor and took her breasts in her hands, as if offering them to the man for his approval. "Come over here and take a closer look at me." Linda walked over to James and stood between his spread legs. They moved to the bed. He was stretching her so hard, and it wasn't even the beginning. "Please, be gentle," she cried out. James wasn't going to be gentle. It hurt. It really hurt. Maybe she deserved the pain, treating Bruce the way she did, but once again she tried to put him out of her mind. Linda was completely consumed by her desire and the feelings she was experiencing for the first time in her life. Even in these circumstances, she realized for a moment the guilt she felt towards her husband, but the feeling soon passed. He remained inside her. She was experiencing sensations she had never dreamed of, but it was as if something was missing, and the image of Bruce came over her so suddenly that she panicked. Linda stood up and began to dress, James looking at her and suggesting that she take her time and give herself another run. Linda didn't like that sentence. It seemed cheap and easy. She hurriedly got dressed and went back to Bruce. She felt very embarrassed. Her lovemaking with James had been enjoyable, but more painful than she had expected. He wasn't as good as her friends had suggested. Maybe she just needed to get used to being oversized. Bruce had ruined everything. If he hadn't left, she wouldn't have kept thinking about him. She hadn't expected to be thinking about him at all. This was supposed to be her night. James spoke up. "In 2 weeks, you and Bruce are coming to the next party." "I hope so. If you have any problems with him, contact me. I can come to your place, show him the new situation, and make him realize the inevitable." She left the room and ordered a cab from the bar. On the way home, she looked forward to cuddling with her husband and lying in their cozy, warm bed. Bruce. He stormed out of his car, his world crumbling around him. Despite his rage, he managed to wait before getting behind the wheel, partly to calm himself, but mostly because he expected Linda to follow him. Once again, he was disappointed by his wife's actions. He drove home, trying not to think about what Linda might be up to and failing miserably. He realized the collar was still on and tried to pull it off, but it wouldn't budge and he felt ashamed. Why didn't he get her out of there? Maybe he's a weakling. Maybe Linda saw something in him that he didn't. His mind kept darting around, trying to hold on to some coherent thought. He ordered himself to breathe and think. It helped. Once he calmed down, he began to think through his options. Ignore, accept, divorce. Until tonight, he'd really liked the way he was living his life. God, where to start? When he got home, he went straight to the workshop, used wire cutters to remove the collar, the mere sight of which made bile rise in his throat. He went back to the kitchen and threw it on the bar. He went upstairs and gathered his toiletries, clothes, and laptop. His camping gear was already packed and lying in the back of his truck, ready to head for the mountains in case the weather forecast was good for the weekend. He felt best in the mountains and decided that was where he needed to be now. It took him less than 10 minutes to pack. As he was leaving, he noticed Linda's cell phone on the sideboard. She was always forgetting it, especially when they went out together. He thought about why she did this and decided that the phone might give some clues. He knew her password and was able to connect the phone to his laptop and download the data from the SIM, including call and text history. It didn't take long. He put the phone back and left. When Linda's cab pulled up to the house was dark. Linda thought Bruce must be pretending to be asleep and fussed. She noticed his truck was gone and hurried into the house. There were no messages there, just a cut collar on the bar. No, there was no way he had actually left. Bruce literally headed for the mountains, traveling to one of the remote camps he knew well. After a few hours, calls and voice messages started coming in from Linda. He ignored the calls but listened to all the messages and did not respond to any of them. He thought the timing of the first call was interesting. It told him that she had spent a lot of time at the party after he left. Her messages that first night had been full of concern. Where was he? Was he all right? Could they not talk? He stopped for a rest stop and called his parents, explaining to his mom that Linda had done something unacceptable without specifying what, that he was fine, and that he was hitting the road. "Oh, it must be bad if you're going there. Are you sure you're okay? Why not come home and we'll take care of you properly?" Bruce smiled. "Thanks, Mom, but I need to be alone. You'll probably get a call from Linda asking about my whereabouts. Could you tell her I'm okay and not to go to the police? That would be helpful." "I won't say anything." She didn't like Linda, believing her to be self-centered, always focused on herself rather than others. But Bruce hadn't noticed it, perhaps not until now. Bruce got to the campground late, settled in, and fell asleep without energy. He set out on the long trail in the late morning, immediately feeling the benefit of wandering through the timeless scenery. There was something soothing about the mountains. They were always changing, yet they remained the same. They were untouched by the troubles of men, including his own. He spent a week exploring new trails and repeating old favorites. He met a lot of really nice people on the trails and often shared food and drinks with them at the campground. They were mostly couples, people who, like him, loved the outdoors. He himself suggested trail options to some of the less experienced people, and a few people went hiking and rock climbing with him. At times he really had a good time until thoughts of his wife brought him back to reality. He got along very well with campground owners Pete and Jen, with whom he shared a couple barbecues. The farmers had originally decided to take over the campground to stay afloat financially, but they really seemed to enjoy sharing their home with visitors. It was the best place he'd seen, rustic and right in the center of the park. They explained that the rustic look of the house was partly because they didn't want to invest their savings and felt they wanted to do less, not more, work, because they weren't getting any younger. Leaving a message at work asking to get the vacation time he was entitled to. He was sure it wouldn't be a problem as he had already closed all the year-end accounts for his clients. In the following days, Linda's messages became increasingly angry. She demanded that he tell her where he was, that he should come home, that he was acting like a child and needed to grow up. Surprisingly, the small cafe had Wi-Fi, and he used internet banking to transfer their savings to other accounts in his name, just in case Linda had any ideas. He doubted she would do it, not because of any newly discovered moral principles, but she just seemed pretty sure he'd come back. He left the current account where bills and spending money were transferred to, so he doubted she would notice anything. A few days later, he decided to see what was loaded on Linda's phone. The calls seemed to be only from her usual girlfriends, but the texts were a surprise. It was obvious that the party had been planned for a long time. Sarah and Maria were clearly the instigators, promoting the benefits of love and total control over their relationship. There was plenty of affirmation that they all deserved more. More control, more excitement, more love, just more. Bruce used Jim and Bill's descent into slavery as a role model. He noted the complete lack of empathy for both husbands, where love was repeatedly mentioned, but usually in the context of justifying their actions or exchanged for increased control. Linda's recent text messages to him escalated to a level he could only describe as rage, which amused him greatly. But there was no sign of remorse or apology. It showed that he couldn't hide forever and had some decisions to make. Linda. Linda was shocked that Bruce left, that he was serious when he said he was leaving. At that moment, she thought he meant leaving the party, but maybe he meant leaving the house or leaving her. No, that's just ridiculous. He just needs time to cool off and then he'll come back to her. His camping gear was missing, which means he was playing Boy Scout on one of his little camping trips. She called and texted, trying her best to look like a concerned wife. After all, she was concerned, but equally tolerant of his inability to manage events. When he didn't return on Sunday night, she was annoyed and reluctantly called Bruce's mother. The response was icy to say the least. His mother didn't know if he was okay or not, but they talked. Linda asked if he had discussed their little problem and got a curt no. "But I'm sure you did something particularly stupid." Linda hung up the phone. She was furious that for a week he had never contacted her. Sarah and Marie became semi-permanent guests in the house, advising her on what she should do and what drastic action was needed when he returned. Bruce was surprised when he got a call from Jim saying he'd heard he'd left and suggested he and Bill meet up. He thought Linda was behind it, but found that he was curious about their marital relationship as well. He decided to return anyway, so he arranged to meet them at a bar outside of town before going home, insisting that the wives not be present. Sarah gave Linda the details of the meeting. She also instructed Bill on the benefits of their new marital relationship. Judging by the place and time, Linda suspected that he might return home and meet them on the way. Finally, a breakthrough. He is indeed proving to be much more stubborn than she realized. Still, he's a go, and she needed to prepare plans and options for his return. Bruce ordered a beer, took it to the booth already occupied by Jim and Bill, and greeted his friends. "Thanks, Bruce, but I don't drink anymore," Bill objected. Bruce was surprised. "Since when? Or since Sarah told him you couldn't?" Neither Bill nor Jim laughed. Bruce thought the reaction was odd. They always laughed at each other's jokes. Bruce continued, "This may seem a little strange, but a question. None of you are recording this?" He noticed Bill twitch in his chair. "Are you being serious?" "Sarah demanded that I leave my phone on," Bill said. "Turn it off or I'm leaving," Bruce said indignantly. Bill complied. "What happened to you two? Now you do whatever they say?" Jim lowered his head. "I think so, but it's for the best. Marie says it means we have clear boundaries and less conflict. We don't fight anymore. There are no secrets. Everything is out in the open, and she's much happier." "What do you say? Are you entitled to any opinion?" That's when Bill tried to intervene. "Bruce, it's not as bad as you think. I genuinely enjoy watching Sarah with other guys. It turns me on. I think that without the parties, she might have had an affair on the side by now, and we would have broken up. I really don't want that. I like my life, and I'm lucky to have a hot girl like Sarah. This isn't for me. I can still almost enjoy watching it. But what is it? The collars, the circle, and the attitude of these guys is horrifying. Do you really like that?" "To be honest," Jim said, "not really. The circle is a little too humiliating, and it would be better if the guys weren't so... assholes," Bruce finished. "And I don't mind, it's just the reality of the situation. Watching them would change the way you feel about it, Bruce. Honestly, they're like fucking machines. We just can't compete with them. When I think about it from Sarah's perspective, I can see why she likes it. I don't think she's going to get the chance to go back." Bill spoke up. Bruce said in surprise, "What, she can't go back, even if it's all at your expense? Do you get any compensation?" "Yes, we still do all the same things, only the love is different. She's not in love with any of the guys." "So, are you still making love to Sarah?" "Well, yeah, I am. It's just that we're still very close." "And you find that acceptable?" As the conversation continued, Bruce became increasingly perplexed. "To be honest with you guys, I just don't get it. It's so one-sided. It's not love for anyone. I think you guys should read the texts I have on my laptop." Bruce showed them some of the most horrible messages from Linda's phone. At first he thought they would refuse to read them, but they started looking at them. The extent of the derogatory comments made by all three wives was appalling. He expected a furious reaction, but got only a shrug from each of them, and a summary that this was just more of what they were used to. "Well, I give up," Bruce exhaled. "I guess we're just wired differently. Look, it was good to see you. Take care, and I sincerely hope you do well, but I've got to go and take care of some business." As soon as Bruce left, Bill called Sarah and told her he was on his way home. Bruce drove up to his house, and when he walked in, Linda seemed to be waiting for him, and certainly had taken the time and effort to look her best. He had to admit that she actually looked good, and he missed her. "Finally back, traveler," Linda said. "I missed you too, sweetheart." Lisa's first tirade was about her lack of contact with him, which he thought was an attempt to catch him off guard and make him feel guilty. It didn't matter, so he didn't bother to respond. Linda was annoyed that he couldn't see how unacceptable his actions were, but eventually she moved off the subject. While there was a pause, Bruce asked, "Was it everything as you imagined it would be?" Lisa smiled. "Yes, it was absolutely amazing. If you want, I can tell you about it. I hear husbands like to relive it again and hear all the sordid details. I don't like it. Just wanted you to confirm your cheating, which you did." Linda pouted again in frustration. "It's actually hard to explain since you didn't participate in it as part of the couple. It was something for me, and it wouldn't have affected us in any way, or it wouldn't have existed unless you left in anger." Just at that moment, a car pulled up. Bruce was amazed to see Marie, Sarah, and James getting out of it. "What's wrong with you and your conspirators, Linda?" Bruce asked. "I can't believe you're using me again. Don't you remember how well it worked out last time?" All three of them walked right into his house, which infuriated Bruce even more. James sat haughtily while Marie and Sarah began to rebuke Bruce themselves. To be honest, he barely listened to them. Caught something about how upset Linda was, about the benefits, extremely happy wives that they deserved it, and Jim and Bill couldn't be happier. Bruce cut in, "Are you sure about that? It seems to me that you set them up and didn't bother to ask. Denied their love to get your way. I can't understand why you would treat anyone like that, let alone those you claim to love, but congratulations, you succeeded. You humiliated the men you claim to love. But you've won. None of this is true. You won't understand until you see James with Linda," Sarah exclaimed. "That's not going to happen," Bruce replied. James stood up and seemed proud of himself as he arrogantly walked over to Linda and put his arm around her waist. "Look, Bruce, if you don't like collars and humiliation, we can make another arrangement. She can become a regular, I'll serve her here and keep things civil. Everybody wins. Now why don't we move upstairs and then you'll realize that Linda doesn't really have much of a choice." "You should get out of my house," James objected. "Tell you what, why don't I call Mike and get him to come to the party? Now we'll do all three, and then you'll have the added advantage of seeing Sarah and Marie naked and properly decorated. It's really hot to watch a married woman submit." James started to make a cell phone call. At the same time, Bruce took 2 long steps, lowered his hip and shoulder, putting weight on the blow that landed in James's face. Screams erupted from all the women. A flash of pain pierced Bruce's fist. Thankfully, James had fallen but was still moving. He started to get to his feet, and when he was halfway there, Bruce made a powerful kick with his foot and hit him in the balls. This time, he fell hard. "Sorry, ladies. Looks like nothing is going to happen today, and your bull will be out of commission for a while." The yelling and screaming continued all around. Bruce picked James up and led him to the door, the women following him. As he pulled him into the car, James muttered, "He's not some goddamn dick." "I finally got through to someone," Bruce laughed. Bruce did feel good. All the frustration that had been building up was coming out. He told Marie and Sarah to get out and never come back here. Then he turned to Linda. "You too. But I live here. I can't leave. We need to sort this out. This isn't what I wanted. Yeah, I love you." Bruce frowned. "Oh, then it's okay if you love me. Do you actually believe you'll be safe if you stay? You have to leave with your girlfriends?" "Of course I'll be safe. You'll never hurt me." "Maybe not, but the way I feel about you right now, even I'm not sure." "I'll leave, but only for a few hours until you calm down. Just go." He watched them leave and felt, what did he feel? Maybe a little better and surprisingly calm. He had expected Sarah and Marie to come, but James was a surprise, and he smiled at the thought of the blow and how abruptly it had interrupted his cocky attitude. It occurred to him that he might be reported for assault, but he suspected James's pride would prevent that. The whole scene confirmed what he had planned. He went to his truck, got the new locks, and started installing them on the outside doors. It was easier than he thought, as they were the same size and brand as the existing ones. He then reprogrammed the garage door and security system. After that, he loaded, or rather, tossed Linda's clothes into her car and then sat back and enjoyed a cool beer in his workshop. Linda returned at 7 p.m. alone but couldn't get into the house. Her key didn't work, which was odd. He wouldn't change the locks, would he? So she tried the back door and the garage. Afterward, she started frantically knocking on the door until he finally answered. He opened the door and said, "Your stuff is in the car," and quickly closed the door. Linda began knocking and screaming again, attracting the attention of the neighbors. As the yelling didn't stop, Bruce went to the door again. "Unless you want me to tell all your precious neighbors what you've been up to, you'd better leave." He looked angrier than Linda had ever seen him. "We need to talk. I think I misjudged the situation," Linda said. "Is that what you think?" "Don't be sarcastic. I listened to Sarah and Marie too much and misjudged the situation. I thought you'd agree, even be happy about it." "Anything else?" Bruce asked. "I love you and I want us to stay together. We can't break up over such a small thing." "The most interesting thing is that you haven't apologized. I'm sorry I hurt you, but not, I'm sorry I slept with a guy. You're just sorry it didn't work out as well as you hoped. You still think your actions were reasonable. You're so self-absorbed, it's amazing. You seem to confuse manipulation and control with love. Well, now you're free to seek all the excitement you deserve. Good luck." Linda began to panic. For the first time, it dawned on her what she had risked. How could she have made such a mistake? She pleaded, "I don't want this. I want you, us, everything back the way it was. Forgive me. I'll do anything. You've always treated me very well, maybe even too well, and I took it for granted. It's too late. There's no turning back. Let's say I can still forgive the evening, but I can't forgive the betrayal and I can never trust you again. I'd like you to leave now. This isn't over. I know you still love me. I'll get you back." Bruce walked her to the door and closed it behind her. It was like closing a part of his life. Epilogue. Bruce decided not to divorce Linda, and she herself didn't file a petition, repeatedly trying to bring them back to each other, which suited Bruce as it meant she was playing nice. He didn't think she couldn't maintain that facade forever. She surprised him when she agreed to sell the house. He guessed she was desperate for money. Bruce quit his job and did freelance bookkeeping and took a job as a mountain guide. He took all the instructor courses, which also helped build a network of contacts. His passion was outdoor recreation, and he knew how to pass that enthusiasm on to his clients. During the spring and summer season, he spent most of his day in the mountains and planned to start more serious winter climbing. He felt healthier and fitter. He bought a 50% interest in the camp from Pete and Jen. The camp was making very little profit, so once he had put most of his money into it, he would consider divorce again. After all, being an accountant had its advantages. Bruce had big plans to expand the camp. He was going to double the number of sites, organize guided vacations, and build mountain bike trails. Peter and Jan's daughter Carol kept horses as a hobby, and they thought horseback riding vacations could be lucrative. He really liked Carol, who had returned to her parents after a painful divorce. She was caring, attentive, and constantly simmering. She was also delighted with Bruce's involvement, easing the burden on her parents. They worked together a lot, and the more he got to know her, the more he liked her. Plus, she was pretty, which helped too. Upon reflection, he realized that he wasn't happy in his old job, but it was lucrative and made Linda happy. Come to think of it, he did a lot of things just to keep Linda happy. The party was probably the best thing that could have happened, although not exactly what Linda had in mind. Surprisingly, Jim showed up at the campground in mid-August. He and Marie had split up. Bruce gave him a few random shifts, and he stayed for a few months, starting to look fitter and happier, more like the guy he'd met at first. Jim said that Linda refused to socialize with Sarah and Marie, and since she didn't have a partner, she couldn't go back to the parties even if she wanted to. James never made contact. After ignoring Linda's calls, texts, and emails, she showed up at camp and asked to speak to him so politely that he could hardly refuse. Many of the words were the same, but this time it seemed to him that she was sincerely sorry. It was noticeable that she used the pronoun I much less and talked more about his feelings. It turned out that she had been seeing a counselor in an attempt to get help. The counselor asked her to see things from Bruce's point of view, and she admitted that she had taken him for granted and had become selfish. They had a long talk and brought all their problems to the surface. Bruce noticed that Linda was beginning to hope that they could work things out after all. He turned to her. "You've broken something that can't be fixed, Linda, no matter how much you want to. I won't live with this mistrust. In the end, it will destroy us both." She was about to object when he added, "Besides, I've met someone." The end.